I was thinking I would start in instead of you, and I'll just pitch it to you.
Okay. So right out of the bat.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Of the Northern Plains. Plus affiliates Talk Radio AM 1100 The Flag and Talk Radio 1090 The Flag in the Bakken. We are broadcasting live from the historic Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar in downtown Bismarck. The Beef Innovator of the Year is honored by the National Cattlemen's Association. We're covering the North Dakota Legislature. You're about to find out what's happening in the North Dakota legislative session. Interviews with legislators, governor, other members of the executive branch. We'll hear from citizens concerned about
there's
the
so many
direction of
ways
state
that this could be
government,
shortened.
and so much more.
I mean, you
Your
can
host of the
cut out all
legislature
this
today is Dale
BS.
Wetzel, managing editor of Great Plains News. If you have questions or comments,
The good
for him
news
or
is
any
when he
of our
does it,
guests, or to
it
watch
keeps
the
us from
show,
having to say
go
any of
to
that stuff.
GreatPlains
So we can go
News.
right into our Jimmy
Well,
Jabber.
I'm talking about the stuff he says, you can interview governors.
Oh, yeah,
blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
oh,
You know,
yeah.
I'm talking about that stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm not talking about the sponsors. I agree with you there.
Credit
Okay,
Union
gotcha.
Association of the Dakotas, the University of Mary, the North Dakota Corn, Soybean and Grain Growers Association.
Yeah, the sponsors
and
are.
the
That's
North
very
Dakota
useful.
Yeah,
Ethanol
exactly.
Council. Also brought
Here it
to you
comes.
by the Northwest Landowners Association.
Yeah, it's
Touchstone Energy
7:07
Cooperatives,
already.
including the North Dakota Rural Electric Cooperatives, Minn-Kota Power, and Great River Energy. The North
There we
Dakota
go.
chapter of Concerned Women for America, the Expressway Inn and Suites, where a good night's rest costs less, and the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar. It's time to get started. Another hour of the Legislature Today is on the air.
This is Dale Wetzel. I'm the host of the Legislature Today. We're coming to you tonight from the Peacock Alley American Bar and Grill in downtown Bismarck. Always a fabulous place to eat, drink, or both, or just hang out with your friends and talk. And it's a wonderful social atmosphere, and it looks like we have a pretty decent crowd here. I'm here with Gary Emeneth, my co-host, and we also have with us who are going to be talking to for the next hour, and he will be talking to us, the Chancellor of North Dakota's University System, Mr. Ham Shervani. So, Gary, what are the specials tonight anyway?
Well, tonight's BAM night, $1 off under Big Mugs.
Big Mugs. What does A stand for?
I won't go there, but I'll let you use your imagination.
Okay.
How's that?
Does it have 3 letters?
It's got 3 letters, B-A-M, and it
Okay.
doesn't stand for Pebbles and Bam Bam either. So.
Okay. It stands for posterior, right?
There you go.
Okay.
Big Mugs, $1 off, $2 off on appetizers. Tonight is the night when you come in and want to have a good cold big beer. So that's what we have tonight, and so it's a good night. It's a nice evening outside. There's not icy streets. It's temperature's nice, so we're going to have a good show tonight. So
I would have had one of those big beers, except I start to slur my words when I drink too many.
Yeah, we
of
need
that
you to
thing.
stay focused this evening. You got a big night ahead of you, and it's early. It's early today.
The legislature has been really busy because the lawmakers are working up to their mid-session break, which they hope to start taking on Thursday or Friday. In fact, the House of Representatives has so many bills that they were meeting until just a few minutes ago. In fact, they may still be meeting now. I think that, anyway, they were meeting into the early evening. And there were a number of things that were done in the legislature today that we can talk about. One of them in the House passed a $500 million income tax cut. This would mean a $361 million tax cut for individuals, approximately 150, 100, excuse me. The majority of it goes to individuals, $361 million, and the whole package is a $500 million tax cut. And this is much greater than the governor included in his budget. He advocates a $125 million tax cut, income tax cut. And the Senate has a competing plan for $250 million. For those of you who haven't changed your license plates in a long time, and frankly, I'm one of those, the Department of Transportation budget has a new license plate issue, which would begin being put out on July 1st. This depends on whether this idea stays in the Department of Transportation budget at the end of the legislature and the governor agrees with it, but there hasn't been any resistance to it so far, and usually there's a fair amount of resistance to a new license plate issue because, you know, the average North Dakotan who has like 20 vehicles doesn't want to go changing their license plate. There was a legislation that was approved, actually two measures. One of them requires petition circulators in North Dakota, someone who takes around an initiative or a referendum petition to have been a resident of North Dakota for at least 2 years. The original bill would have required a 3-year residency and have required that person to have voted in one of the last 2 elections, but that has been dispensed with, but instead a petition circulator must have lived in North Dakota for at least 2 years before that person can circulate petitions. The reason for this is because there were a couple of initiative campaigns last year that relied upon imported folks to gather signatures, and that rubs some people the wrong way. We'll wrap up here with, there were a number of gun bills that the House approved. One of them says you can carry a concealed gun in a church with a permit and some training if your church leaders know about this. Another one says you can carry a concealed gun, in a school if you have a permit and some training and the school board approves it. And yet another gun bill says that you can carry a concealed firearm at a public gathering if you have a concealed weapons permit of any type. You don't need to have weapons training. And by public gatherings, we're talking about sports events, we're talking about school functions, church functions, political rallies, concerts, and also we're talking about being able to go into public buildings.
Did that pass, did you say, Dale?
It did. There were three, actually four major gun bills. One of them was frankly not very controversial. It said that your local government can't seize your gun during a state of emergency. I don't think that that's even been contemplated in North Dakota, but that was one of them. But the other three were approved. The one that is the most expansive one that allows you to take a concealed gun into a public building if you have a permit, that was the closest one. I think it got 58 votes. But all of those were approved, and they will all go to the Senate. And so we want to give as much time possible for our guest this evening, and our guest is Mr. Ham Shirvani. He's the Chancellor of the North Dakota University System. He's had that job since last July, and he is has a long career as a university faculty member and administrator. He was educated in London, England, and at Princeton, and at Harvard. And we'll let him get into some of the details of that. And welcome, Dr. Shirvani.
I'm delighted to be here, Dale.
First of all, sir, tell us a bit about your background, where you're from.
Well, I was originally born in Iran. I grew up in London, England. Then I attended undergraduate in England and then came here to this country in 1974 and went through graduate school trainings, and I've been in Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, Princeton, and Harvard, and then I started my career as a faculty member at Pennsylvania State University, and then moved up the ladder. I was dean at the University of Colorado, dean at the University of Massachusetts, and vice president at the City University of New York's Queens College, and then provost of Chapman University and president of California State University Stanislaus. So I have 33 years in higher education and worked in 5 university systems. And of course I've been also a productive scholar as well. I've published extensively, and I came through the rank from assistant professor to the higher academic kind of levels.
What is your professional training, sir?
In architecture and urban design, and most of my research and publications focuses on urban design, and I have written several books and have been published and extensively been used.
What drew you to architecture as a profession?
Architecture is about synthesis. It's about putting variety of elements together, and while you're dealing with constraints and context. So is basically taking a site. You have clients, you have neighbors, you have government regulations, you have zoning laws, and you have a variety of issues with the land in terms of geology, hydrology, ecology, and so forth. And you have a lot of constraints, you have a lot of limitations, you have good number of contexts, and then at the same time you have to satisfy the clients and put a building together that is going to be used for them. And that is a great process that one needs to know a lot about different elements, but at the same time his or her main task is to put these things together. And I applied the same principles into architecture of the academy, and that's how I kind of got into administration by accident, but I liked it because I find it's really an architecture. And that's what building this system, North Dakota University system, is a grand architecture.
What attracted you to this job? Why did you want to take it?
Well, Dale, this is a very good question. I think you've been in part of these interview processes when I was coming back and forth. I really firmly believe, even at this time, that North Dakota has a golden, really the golden opportunity to have the best system of higher education in this country. Because, look, is economically prosperous, is small enough state for the change to really make an impact, a real impact, but is large geographical area. This is an advantage. So everything that works. There are 11 colleges and universities. There are 5 two-year colleges, 4 comprehensive, 4-year degrees, and 2 research universities. So there is a variety of, there's 3 different levels, 3 different groups of colleges and universities that each have a certain purpose, certain clear mission, and yet all under one umbrella. But so that's what attracted me, that this is very unique. Although in our history we had some wrinkles, because it's about 23 years we're talking about building a system. So it has all the elements for the system to be built, but we still have to build it. And that was the mission that was given to me by the State Board of Higher Education, and I was attracted to it. To coming all the way to your answer is that because it's a grand architecture, it's a very challenging architecture. It's a site which has a lot of constraints that you have to deal with, and there are a lot of people that you have to satisfy.
What about the North Dakota University system? Is it a system, in your opinion, right now?
I have honestly said, and perhaps that's why I'm in trouble, because if you tell the truth, sometimes truth costs you a lot. We don't. I think we don't have a full-fledged system, and that's why the board wanted me to come and really build it. Of course, they also wanted me to elevate it to the next. I mean, you can describe it that we do have a system, but it's not all the elements of it are in place. You see what I'm saying? So,
what elements aren't in place?
Well, a system is about, it's not about, I want to first take the misconception out. When you talk about system, people think about, somebody's sitting in Bismarck and managing all 11 universities. Wrong. That's not a system. A system means coordinating and having a consistent set of rules and regulations and policies that all these universities follow. And so that's one element of it. One is structure, one set of policies, one set of rules. The second element of it is that there would be a concerted effort about where we're going as a system. How are we serving the residents of North Dakota? Let me explain to you. What does it mean? Because it's still, we're talking about 30,000 feet. Bring it to 5 feet level. That means if a poor student's taking 25 credits or 26 credits in Williston State, then comes in and goes to Dickinson State and takes another 30 credits, and then decide to go to University of North Dakota, this 25 and 35, let's say, becomes 60 credit. He or she can take this 60 credit and go to University of North Dakota, and not they don't turn around and say, well, we really don't accept. I'm not saying they do, but I'm just talking about the system. And these are examples. We only take 40 of it. So the student loses right after about 20 credits. You see what I'm saying? That's about serving the student, ease of transferability. We're talking about responsible tuition and fee increases to make sure the system, if we have accurate numbers about all of these colleges and universities, the state has beautifully invested on a very sophisticated information technologies, hardware and software. But we have to design the system, and we have not designed the system with what we call institutional research people. So everybody parks the number in the right. So if you have consistent and accurate numbers, then we're going to make sure that the students' fees and tuition increases in a very responsible way. We're going to make sure that, you know, they really need that for the cost of education.
So what you're saying is that we don't have any idea what it costs to provide a particular education?
No, because we don't have the accurate numbers to do the analysis and so bring it to legislature. Now, another give you, for example, you know, everybody asks for buildings. Okay, we don't have a master plan. A master plan that tells us what kind of a space we need, what, you know, how much of it we need, in what campus we need, and not something that I say even as an architect or you say or anybody says. The experts come in and study carefully based on measures and based on tables and guidelines that they have and identify that. So if that's the case, like any other university system, that's our advantages of university system. So you have a real master plan for all the campuses, and then we have a packing order and hierarchy based on absolute needs of the students. That's, for example, what these are the type of things that system does. Also about efficiency and synergy. I mean, we have some small campuses, some big campuses. We're looking at all these campuses and we say, what are the things that we can do together, you know, that reduces the cost? We are all, after all, we're one state and one system. Very more importantly, graduation and retention rate. That's what I'm saying. We have to make these campuses, the system makes the campuses accountable. That's the bottom line. Is that give them clear direction and demands accountability and products. The system does not manage day-to-day operation. Those are presidents. They are in charge, and they will do it whatever way they want to do. But the system and the board has to set not only policies within which they operate, but also directions like graduation and retention rate. That we do need help. It's the numbers are clearly out there, and I've shared it with legislature. I shared it with you. These numbers simply have to increase. We're not saying we have bad universities or bad campuses, or they're not quality, but we're saying we want to move up. We want to be better and better at any level you can improve. You know, particularly we're talking about in academia, and one thing which is very interesting, in academic thinking, intellectual thinking, you know, you can never achieve a goal. You're always approaching, and you see, so if you once you approach one goal, there is another one. So you always have to move this level of intellect to a higher level, and that's what the system is going to do.
Do you run into folks in the system who think that we've already arrived at nirvana and don't have to go any further?
That is some perception of some people. I've had, you know, when I was around trying to talk to different people, you know, colleges and universities, everybody, I mean, all the various constituencies, I would hear that, well, let's say, Chancellor, why do we need this pathway to student success, which I think is one of the most innovative model that we put together, and I'm very proud of it, and it's going to do miracle in North Dakota. And so they said, why do we need it? You know, our students graduate and get a job and so forth. But I would answer that, you know, look at our graduation rate and retention rate. Look at how many people drop out of our colleges and don't complete. And a major, not all part, but major factor for that is that these students have not been well prepared. And I'm not blaming K-12, whether they have prepared them or not, but we have avenue to take care of their remediations. So, but when we bring them unprepared, they eventually drop. But we also have other things. We have to provide mentoring and advising, perhaps create block program, you know, make sure that we offer the courses they need to graduate. These are the things that we have to do to make sure, because if every student that does not graduate on time every year loses around $60,000. Why? Because you pay $20,000 tuition, room and board, and then you don't work because you could make $40,000. So you're really losing, if you put the marginal cost of substitution, you're losing $60,000. So we are working, everything we do is for students, and everything we should do. So there is a space for improvement.
How long is it going to take to make the kind of changes that you have talked about in terms of getting accurate data, implementing the pathways to student success, getting your graduation and retention rates up?
Basically, by the way, I wanted to say that for your audience, that Pathway to Student Success essentially says, look, we are matching students' preparation to the college, appropriate college and universities, and we are not denying access. All we're saying is that we want to make sure you're prepared before you go to university. So if you're not prepared, you go to a 2-year college, finish up 30 credits with a 2.5 average, and move to a 4-year institution. Any of them you want. And if you are prepared, welcome to come in. So we want to make sure. So we are elevating the level of preparedness and admissions and matching the preparation to the mission. Now, how long does it take? Some of these things, it's going to take a year or 2 years, by putting the model for accurate information, or trying to do a master plan and come up with a list of priority. In a 2 years, we would, by next legislative session, we have a lot of these things in place, or making ease of transfer among the students, or correct or very responsible, let's say correct, forgive me, responsible tuition and fee increases. But for really increasing graduation and retention rate, we need 4 or 5 years, because we have to put a lot of things in place, and we have to wait until these policies are implemented.
Are you having fun at your job? Do you like it?
I'll be honest with you. Until 1st of February, I couldn't wait, and I was running 24 hours. I still do, but I'm certainly disappointed about the series of events and the muds that have been thrown at me and since 1st of February, and I think it's really, I didn't deserve it. That's all I can tell you.
The North Dakota Student Association has approved essentially it's a resolution of no confidence and support of buying out your contract and telling you to hit the road. What do you think about that?
Dale, I would rather not respond to that question, and I want to leave it to the State Board of Higher Education, my bosses, to answer that.
I wanted to ask you one other thing that kind of relates to that. I mean, you mentioned your passion for students and how students need to be protected and catered to, basically, and prepared for college. I mean, when you have a student organization that says, that you should hit the road, how does that affect you, given your regard for students?
I honestly am trying to not answer any other questions, but I can also tell you I'm very disappointed and dismayed because, the question is, everything that I've done is for students, and I don't honestly. Maybe once or twice I've met some of these students, so I can't figure it out where they basing their judgment.
I guess we'll get to this in the second half hour, but one of the things that we want to talk about in the second half hour is, why is it that these issues have arisen, and do you have any idea in like 20 seconds or less? We can expand on it later.
I honestly think that when the more I read about it, is just I'm apparently there is the question of my style and communication and so forth. My argument is very difficult when you can't challenge on the issues and the topics. I mean, the direction that we are going, the topics that the goals that we want to achieve.
Why don't we hold that thought, Chancellor? We'll be back in about 4 minutes, and we'll be continuing our conversation with Chancellor Ham Shirvani.
The Legislature today comes to you Monday through Thursday night from the Peacock Alley, downtown Bismarck. The National Cattlemen's Association 2012 Beef Innovator of the Year.
Oh, no, this one here.
Down for great specials and great conversation. 422 East Main Avenue in the historic Patterson Building, downtown Bismarck. And our hospitality sponsor is the Expressway Inn and Expressway Suite, where a good night's rest costs less and luxury for less. Now, back to the Legislature Today radio show with your host, the managing editor of Great Plains News and Great Plains Examiner, Dale Wetzel.
Hello, this is Dale Wetzel. I am the host of the Legislature Today radio show. We're coming to you from the Peacock Alley American Bar and Grill in downtown Bismarck. The joint is jumping tonight, and with us this evening are my co-host Gary Emneth. We also have the Chancellor of North Dakota's University System, Dr. Ham Shirvani. We also have Senator Ray Holmberg of Grand Forks. He's the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and the Senate Appropriations Committee is going over the university system's proposed budget and is getting ready to finish its work. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chancellor Shirvani, you mentioned that sometimes telling the truth gets you into trouble. What can you just describe, why is it, in your opinion, or what is your perception, that some folks want to run you out of town? What have you done to upset them so much?
Dale, I think you have to ask them. What I've heard is what I've read, same as you. But I just only can tell you that I was brought here to do a job, and that means build the system that we've talked about it earlier in your show. And I was also asked to do it as fast as possible, which I did it as fast as possible. And honestly, a lot of these things that we have done is not extensive. We elevated the admission policies. We revised some of our operational policies to put the foundation of a real system together. And so when you can't argue about the goals and directions and the purpose of what we're doing, then the criticism goes to style or speed or all those kind of more subjective elements rather than challenging the direction.
Well, what do you think when your management style is described as essentially too hard charging, not consultative enough? What do you think about that?
There has been ample consultation, sir. There has been enough consultation during the process. There has been extensive consultation regarding pathway to student success, and our policies and procedures that have been changed is based on, and as first of all, it's been proposal. My job is to make a recommendation. I don't make final decisions on anything. This is all the State Board of Higher Education. And second of all, it has been based on best practices.
You've got some experience in campus politics. Do you think that all of this is being orchestrated?
I would rather not comment on that.
Senator Holmberg, you've been dealing at length with the North Dakota University System's budget. What has been your reaction or your opinion of how the university system has dealt with you and your committee in trying to formulate the budget?
Well, they have provided us with the information we have asked for. I cannot fault the board or the chancellor for providing us with data. We have focused, though, because of the time element we have in the Senate versus the House, we have focused more on the campuses and what makes sense for the campuses. And as we looked at those budgets that the governor presented and the new funding formula, which the Senate has passed unanimously, I believe, we like the funding formula. That has a great deal of popularity. We had no problem with the dollar amounts that the governor put in the budget to effect the change to this new formula, knowing full well that at the end of the day we're much better off having a system that makes sense regarding the funding of the campuses and eliminating as much as possible that biennial fight between whether or not UND should count the medical school within their budget or that extension and experiment station should be counted at NDSU. Those old fights, I think, under this new formula are put to bed. So we found, when we looked at the budget, it was a conservative budget. which might surprise some folks.
I think it did surprise Gary a great deal.
My jaw dropped.
Well, this is the bottom line.
No, I'm kidding.
When you looked at the camp, now I'm talking just the campuses. When you look at the campuses, OMB used a funding formula of 5.15% increase per year for inflation. But keep in mind, of that 5.15% increase, 4% was mandated by the governor's salary package, and 1% was mandated by what the legislature did regarding retirement. So the funding at the campus level is really 1.15% per year, which I think is a modest increase.
That is.
Ray, one of your vice chairman, Fargo Senator Tony Grinberg, he's a Republican from Fargo, he has said that he's going to be offering an amendment to the spending bill to buy out the chancellor's contract. Can you tell me, first of all, what's the status of that amendment, and secondly, how much support do you think it would have in the Appropriations Committee and the Senate itself?
It's a proposal that's going to go directly to the floor. It's not going through the committee. I think it has a certain divisive nature, and it's going to be decided on actually tomorrow morning by the full Senate.
Do you intend to support it yourself?
No. It
Why
is
not?
not the role of the legislature to determine who we work with, whether it is the head of corrections or human services or the board of higher or the chancellor of the university system. Our job is to work with whomever is selected by the executive branch, or in the case of the chancellor, the Board of Higher Education. That's our job. We don't select those folks. Now, we might be unhappy about style and some of these other things that go on, but live with it.
Based upon your experience, how would you describe the chancellor's style?
I would say it's very different than the last chancellor.
How so?
It has gone from really what I would describe as an extremely Adam Smith type laissez-faire style to one where there's a lot more structure. And I used the word the other day, robust leadership. Neither good nor bad. It is, I think, a description that talks about someone who is working for a board who hired him to do certain things. I have not heard, one thing I would agree with the chancellor, I have not heard huge complaints about two aspects of what's going on. Number one, was there a need and a cry for change in the directions of the board office? And the answer is, I believe, yes. The last session of the legislature made some changes in the budget because we were very unhappy with the directions and the style in the board office. Secondly, there are a number of changes that have been made. You can argue from here to the end of time whether or not they're going too fast or too slow, but they are changes that I haven't heard a lot of complaints about the specifics. Do we want students better prepared? Do we want to upgrade our campuses so that the students are getting a better education? Do we want campuses to be rewarded for just driving students into the classroom so they can have a large body count? Or do we want students to be successful? And that's what we reward. So one of the major changes that, like I said, the Senate passed this past week was to reward performance, not so much to reward just finding bodies. And that causes some folks to be a little nervous because they say, well, my community depends on 800 students, and this might drop us to 700 students. But I think research indicates that over time, if you increase standards, and I think you could go to the University of Minnesota Morris.
Absolutely.
That you increase the rigor of what they have, and they will come. Now, the style, yeah, there are some style issues that rankle legislators.
Like what?
Maybe it is, I would say one of the biggest ones, and this sounds terrible, and I don't want to be snarky or anything, but one thing that drives them crazy, I think, is inadvertent, probably, referral to California, which I think as a culture, we don't find them as being very interesting. It's kind of like the husband that talks to his second wife, constantly referring to how good it was with his first wife. I mean, we get a little... and that's one of those things, and I'm sure you've heard that too. Yes. I mean, the Chancellor has heard that too. So those kind of things, and legislators have great memories. They remember slights. I remember, and Dale, you would know this, in Grand Forks, we still have Republicans that are complaining about people who supported Taft in ¡52.
This is true.
They remember.
But aren't we talking about trying to bring California up to our standards? Isn't that what you're referring to, or I missed something here? I'm kidding.
I would hope so. I would hope so, because we have good standards. We have a good university system.
Well, Senator Holmberg, I guess what the bottom line I'm trying to get to is that, you know, there has been support from NDSU student organization and the North Dakota Student Association and probably some other organizations that I'm not familiar with, to take the step of spending at least $750,000, maybe more, to buy out the contract of someone who has been in the job for 7 months. And I'm trying to figure out what has he done to merit that sort of action. I mean, can you answer that for me?
I can't answer that. I find it difficult to get my arms around an appropriation of $750,000, $800,000 to give to an agency when you have no authority to require them to do anything except the money. I mean, they can't spend it on other things, but I haven't gotten my arms totally around that yet.
Do you think that the Chancellor has been, I mean, what is your opinion of how the Chancellor has been treated? Do you think he's getting what's coming to him, or what?
Well, I think in part I agree with one of the comments that one of the publisher of a newspaper gave the other day, which was, if you're complaining about a number of things that the Chancellor has done, remember who hired him to do these things. So he was kind of suggesting that if you have a lot of ire, you should be looking at the board. But, I mean, you've been here a long time, Dale, and you know the history has been kind of interesting regarding the relationship between the board and the legislature. I think that natural tension goes back, well, since the board was established in the 30s. There's always going to be a tension between the legislature and a group that is kind of semi-autonomous.
What does this do to the effectiveness of the board?
I think it will play out. There's a lot of things going on right now. I call them sideshows. And we're trying to, when I carry the bill tomorrow, I'll try to focus in on the students and the education they get, and try to stay somewhat away from the sideshows. And there are lots of them.
One of the, Chancellor Shervani, one of the things that you wanted from the budget was, I think, 30 folks to do various tasks, I guess I'd call them supervisory or oversight tasks. And if you don't get near that many, how are you going to interpret that?
Thank you, Dave. I wanted to follow up,
please,
Senator Holmberg. I think on one issue that you asked earlier on question, and Senator Holmberg very eloquently, presented that, is the question of too much, too fast. But the question of too much is a reality. I don't deny it. Was the changes, a lot of changes, are in the kind of a scope of building a system is not very many. In the context of how extensive they are and how major they are absolutely no denial about it. Changing the whole admission processes, dual credits, remediation, you name it. I mean, it's a whole package of things, as well as a lot of the policies. Yes, it was as an academic, as a person who has been 33 years in higher education, of course, we were moving too fast. But there were ample opportunity to make comments. Yes, we did not wait 900 years. We did not just postpone things for more and more time, but there was certainly opportunity to input, and I certainly always delighted to get input into these processes. But again, we wanted to also look at not California, but look at best practices, particularly in Midwestern system. So that's one I wanted to kind of make sure that but the 30 position is really, we've thought if we have the best system in terms of, best foundation for a system we need, but we just need resources. So all the things that I talked to earlier on in your first half an hour of your show about what its system means, if legislature gives us, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, as much as they give me money, I can deliver in that limit. We can deliver that in that. So, if I don't get any, we just have to continue the way it is. We are not going to accomplish all the goals that we have. That's as simple as possible.
Have you thought about resigning?
No, I have not.
Are you confident that the board is going to stick with you?
I have no reason to believe otherwise.
Are you satisfied with the support they've given you so far?
Yes, I am. I'm very grateful.
And where do you think things go from here? How do you try to repair whatever damage has been done, even if you might believe that it's not of your making?
Well, I think just keeping on course, staying on course, and staying on course every day that we stay, next year. First of all, it's very hard for me because I don't want to comment on this latest saga. But I think, again, I want to refer, first of all, the answer to your question is staying on course. The results will be the best demonstration of what the system is going to do. The system is going to improve all these colleges and universities. The better system creates a better system of higher education and is only for the sake of the students. And there's this old saying, all ships rise together. If we raise the system, we're going to accomplish a great deal.
Did you expect this kind of reaction when you came here?
No, I haven't, but Senator Homburg beautifully put it. There is a history, and certainly I was extremely concerned about the history because this system is in making for 23 years, almost 23 and a half, and there has been numerous chancellors that, have been in back and forth. And yes, Senator Homburg is right, has gone in different direction. But certainly I think the beginning of this saga in the early February by Senator Greenberg and others I think there is a certain building resistance towards a real system. And one thing which is sad to me is that if they really listen and really carefully analyze what we want, what the State Board of Higher Education wants to accomplish, is good for every one of the colleges and universities. It's not about centralization of power. It's not about micromanagement. It's about better services and better quality education for the students of North Dakota.
Do you think you've done a good job conveying that message?
I have done as much as I could, but certainly I think I have to do more. And that's, that I go to high schools and I've not stopped, and I keep going to the high schools and talk to the kids. I think I talk to communities, and I'm going to continue doing that. And I think, but the time, it's only 7 months. If I need a little bit more time.
Do you think you've been treated fairly in that context? That you have been in the job for 7 months, and already people want to spend a lot of money to get rid of you. What's the deal?
I was not going to, really, but since it's not about the students, it's about the whole thing, is the whole movement, if you will, or the agenda is, it's quite, it's really quite disheartening and is certainly unfair.
Just to really switch gears here for a moment, I mean, you grew up in London. Why did you choose to live in this country?
As I think this is the land of opportunity and also, most importantly, land of freedom. You know, the real democracy. I mean, you know, I've been all over the world. I've been fortunate enough to be in many countries, but I think this is still the best country in the world. Even at this time, it's the best country in the world because it's a true democracy, and I appreciate it. And it's true freedom and true democracy, as the best as one can get, is in this country. And I'm grateful to this country that that has provided me this opportunity to be where I am now. And the reason I'm in this, you know, I'm educated enough that I'm able enough to make livings in different way. Why I chose this path, why I'm doing this, because I really want to serve this country, because it is my country. I'm not a born citizen, but I'm a naturalized citizen, and I think it's the greatest achievement for me.
Have you been around North Dakota much? What do you think?
I have put 17, you can come down and check, 17,000 miles on a brand new car when I came here and got it. And I've been all over. I know all the back roads, and I love it, and I love the people, and it's a very value-centered state. And I really, again, come back a whole 360 degree. We have the golden opportunity to build the best system of higher education in this state.
What do you mean? You said you like. What do you like about? You're kind of rhapsodic about North Dakota there for a moment. What do you like?
To begin with, one of the best things that attracted me is the landscape. You know, I just absolutely love the landscape.
So you love the fact that there are no trees and you know.
Oh, there are trees, but it's not like Northeast or Washington but it's beautiful, and it is the people. You know, it's the people that you know, when I go to these small towns, I get, you know, the greetings that I get, and the level of conversation and level of respect. And that's why it's so shocking that this you know, this whole movement. I mean, it just doesn't match. I mean, there's this. It's shocking to me. I'm kind of.
Does it make you reconsider whether you did the right thing by coming here?
I don't know. Really, I can't answer that question.
Senator Holmberg, how do you think that the higher education budget is going to come out in terms of what the chancellor wanted in terms of extra personnel to, you know, engage in certain supervisory and monitoring or oversight conduct?
Well, I've been here long enough to know that the first thing you do is respect reality. And when we received the budget, and we had good testimony from Dr. Shervani and from others and from the presidents, then you start to gauge what kind of support is there out there. And we found none for additional personnel for a number of reasons. Legislators don't like to create FTE positions. So our subcommittee and our committee, we asked Dr. Shervani to come back, and he gave us you know, besides the original proposal, he gave us another proposal that was somewhat stripped down. But in order to pass anything in the Senate, you have to have the votes to do it, and votes weren't there.
The gentleman thank you, Senator Holmberg. The gentleman you're listening to is Senator Ray Holmberg. He's the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee. He's a Republican from Grand Forks. We've also been speaking to the Chancellor of North Dakota University System, Ham Shervani. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Dale.